Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, friends, wherever you are in the world. How in the world are you? I'm your host, Michael D. Butler. You're watching the Write Your Book in 1 hour. We're going to start at the top of the hour. So grab a pen, grab a notebook, text a friend, silence your phones because you're going to want to take notes. This is going to be epic. If friends and family have been telling you need to write a book, this is the webinar for you where you can actually have a book in your hand by December and use it as a stocking stuffer to create credibility for your business, your brand, and your products. So stick around. You're going to learn a lot. Grab a pen and let's go. Changing lives in New York and NASDAQ and beyond. Michael D. Butler, global book publisher. We're ending human trafficking at 1040impact.org.
I don't celebrate birthdays. I just don't celebrate birthdays. And I don't remember exactly why I quit celebrating birthdays. Maybe it was because on my 16th birthday, my parents happened to be both out of town on business trips. I was getting my driver's license, growing up on the farm in Oklahoma. My brother checked me out of school in third hour and took me to the DMV. Now, I'd studied hard for that test. I wanted to pass it. I wanted my freedom. And I was so proud. I came out and I had my picture, weighing 136 pounds, sophomore. Right there, I got my ticket to freedom. So he takes me to the Pizza Hut, and we're eating pizza, and we're celebrating. And I get to drive my car back to the school, and I get to drive my car home that day. We had planned it that way. Maybe the reason I don't celebrate birthdays is when I turned 40, Dad calls me the day before my birthday and says, "Son, let's celebrate your birthday tomorrow." And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great. I've got a lot to celebrate. Let's do it." He said, "Tomorrow at your favorite restaurant, 12 noon. I said, "You bet. I'll see you there." Hang up the phone. The next morning, he shows up at the restaurant at 11:50. Dad was always early. He grew up on the dairy farm, and I was always right on time. So 12 o'clock came. I didn't show up. 12:05 comes. He's a little worried. He's texting and calling. It goes straight to voicemail. 12:15, he's like, "What's going on?" At 12:25, he calls the hospital. "Where's my son?" 12:45, he drives home to tell my mom, "Michael didn't show up." Where was I? Was I in the hospital? No. I was in jail. Because on the eve of my 40th birthday, I went to the bar alone to drink, got into a bar fight, and spent the night of my 40th birthday in jail. What was it about this self-sabotage that the pain was so great that a root of bitterness was growing in my heart at a subterranean level, affecting everything in my life and everyone that I touched in a negative way? I couldn't figure it out. This year, man, I was all ready to celebrate my birthday. Very excited. Friends were coming over at 2 p.m. We had the whole thing planned out. I'll never forget when I was 7 years old, I told my dad, I said, "Dad, I'm going to live to be 120. And I think in my subconscious mind, I knew I needed that much time to redeem the root of bitterness and create what my therapist called a root of blessing. My therapist said there's two things you need to do to reverse the curse of bitterness and create blessing in your family and to bring it back. And you need to forgive yourself and you need to celebrate." Well, I was good at forgiving myself because I had screwed up a lot and I forgave a lot. And she said, "Celebrate yourself, come on." And that was my theme song. And I sat there in jail and said, "I'm going to run a marathon this year." And Michael, Joshua, and Jeremiah, 4 sons, they stepped out of the spectator area in the last 3 miles. They ran with me in 2008 and crossed that finish line with me. And as I told my sons, I said, "Sons, I am celebrating your birthday, but guess what? Next year, I'm celebrating my birthday on May the 10th. And you are invited. Celebrate with me." Thank you.
Changing lives in New York and NASDAQ and beyond. Michael D. Butler, global book publisher. We're ending human trafficking at 1040impact.org. All right. Good evening, USA. Good afternoon, Europe. And good morning, Asia. Coming at you from Bangkok, Thailand. I'm your host, Michael D. Butler, and I am sharing with you the book that's changed the world. Book I did a bestseller in 30 days, which is a take off of the course I did during the pandemic. Write Your Book in 60 Days, which is now morphed into Write Your Book in 1 hour, because it really comes down to the decision. And wherever you're watching from, I want you to pop it in the chat. Just let us know where you're watching from, what platform you're watching on. And I also want to know if you are writing fiction or nonfiction, because I believe the world needs to hear your story. And I'm going to share my screen with you, because the slides I'm going to share with you in the next few minutes are going to revolutionize how you've been writing your book. I want to know, how long have you been working on your book? Pop that in. You know, we have authors, because we've published nearly 900 titles, and we have authors that share with us that they've been writing their book for 6 years, 16 years. I had one author tell me recently, 26 years she's been trying to write and finish her book. But I'm going to tell you on this webinar how to write your book in 1 hour. And really, it's going to come down to about 45 minutes, because it really comes down to a decision. It comes down to a decision. And I'm going to share some stories with you today that are going to transform your life. That I want to ask you a question of, why do you want to write your book? Why do you want to write your book? Do you want to write your book to get on more stages? Do you want to write your book to create more referrals, to create more customers, to get more endorsements from customers? Why do you want to write your book? And so that's what I want to ask you today. Why do you want to write your book? And so I'm going to help you finish your book. I'm going to help you write your book. I'm going to help you get your book done. And you want to stick around to the end, because I've got a special offer for you. We're coming up on November, and November is the biggest month to be able to leverage pre-sales for your book, to be able to leverage the pre-sale that's going to get the most eyeballs on your book. And so I'm very excited about this. So let me just share my screen with you. Put in the chat where you're watching from. I am producing this, as I said, in Bangkok, Thailand right now, and I wouldn't have it any other way, because you're about to learn that Asia is the #1 for purchasing books, for reading books in English globally. The top 5 countries are right in Southeast Asia. So write your book in 1 hour. Here's the amazing fact, that 4 to 5 million new titles every year. That means you're thinking about a book, you're working out a book, but there are 4 to 5 million other titles that are going to be published every year in the US, right here, with ISBN numbers. That doesn't even count the book titles that are being published globally without ISBN numbers. So there's as many as 5, 6, or 7 million books being published every year. So how are you going to stand out? You know, a lot of people thought the internet killed publishing, but knowledge is doubling every month. 140 million Americans, that's half of America, has listened to an audiobook, and hardcovers are up 20% each year. So there are 20,000 bookstores still in the USA, and that means there's opportunity for your book to sell everywhere. So there's opportunity, because libraries are still the #1 buyers of books. And so I'm going to share my screen with you here, because this is very exciting. I want to know if you're writing fiction or nonfiction. So fiction is 70 to 80% of the global book sales, and nonfiction is 30 to 40%. Good to see you, Willow from Florida. Glad you're here. How'd you hear about us? And are you writing fiction or nonfiction? Would love to know, and love to know how long you've been working on that. So libraries are still the #1 buyers of books. I'm going to show you in a minute the top countries that buy books. Okay, the US actually ranks 25th on the list, because when it comes to books in English, 76% of those books are bought and read outside the US. But I want to ask you the question, why do you want to write a book? You know, is it something you just want to get off of your bucket list? Is it something that friends and family have been telling you for years you should write a book? You know, we've published 847 titles, authors in 66 countries, and we've ghostwritten 129 books. I'm very proud to share that fact with you, but you really want to know why you want to write the book, because 85% of Americans want to write and publish a book. Only 15% ever do. So we're going to help you on this webinar figure out. So Will is right. Fiction, that's awesome. That's epic. Nonfiction means it's a true story. It could be a memoir. It could be a how-to book. And in a little bit, I'm going to give you the top selling categories and the top selling, between fiction and nonfiction, which one sells the most. And I'm going to rank those for you so you can understand particularly who your reader is. And as you begin to do your research, you want to understand why are you writing the book? What action do you want your reader to take? And who is your reader? What country does your reader live in? And what books are they reading right now? And really, what podcast are they listening to right now? Because it's very important to realize that readership hasn't died, that readership is up, that knowledge is doubling, and that your story can literally change the world. But it's very important to realize that on nonfiction, the slowest moving category of book is memoir and poetry. But the fastest moving category of book is how-to. So does this mean I can't tell my story? No, you can actually still tell your story, but you want to make a how-to book out of your story and make it about the 3 things you learned during your bankruptcy, your failed relationship, the pandemic, overcoming, because people are more likely to buy in the nonfiction category a how-to book category of book. And so I'm going to give you some of these tips. You're going to want to stick around and you're going to want to dive right in. So I encourage you to write at the same time every day, write at the same place every day, because just like going to the gym, it is going to do a signal to your subconscious mind. Half of the battle of going to the gym is just getting there, right? And then once you get there, your endorphins kick in, you start working out, and you start creating the body that you want. So in order to create the manuscript that you want, you must treat it like a business. You must treat it like a healthy addiction, because it is. You must treat it like the serious project that it is, because, if you've been called to write a book, don't keep cheating the world from the benefit of having your book. Start sharing your book today with the world. And the first thing I did when I was 39 and a half years old, I ran a bucket list item. I had just moved and was going through a box. And I realized at 39 and a half, I was going to run a marathon that year. But you know what? You need a year to train for a marathon. And I was not in shape. I was in couch potato shape. I was overweight. I wasn't going to the gym. And so the next morning, I put on my running shoes. I go out into the neighborhood and I run 2 blocks and I'm out of breath. And I'm thinking, I'm just having a bad day. So I do it again the next day. I put on my running shoes. I go out and I run 2 blocks and 1 mailbox, and I think I'm going to die. So I go home and I Google running shoes. And in the process of buying new running shoes, I see an ad for a running group where I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Fleet Feet Sports, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I see the race. It's the Route 66 Marathon, November 18th, 2008. And I sign up right then and there for the Fleet Feet Route 66 Marathon, my first marathon, with only 6 months to train. And you know what? I put it on my social media that day. I got really, really public. I put it on social media. I said, 6 months, I'm going to run and finish in under 5 hours. Exactly what I did. And all 4 of my sons were there to cheer me on that day. In fact, about 14 and 8, Michael, Matthew, Josh, and Jeremiah, they stepped out of the spectator area. And you know what they did? They ran the last 3 miles of the marathon with me. One of the greatest moments of my life compared to them being born, next to them being born, is we crossed that finish line together. Now, writing your book is like that. The reason most people never finish their book is because they never let the world know they're working on it. That's the reason with weight loss goals, it's not really a weight loss goal if it's not public. And so you've got to put it on your social media. So what I want you to put on your social media today when you finish this webinar is I'm launching my book, Christmas 2024. And you say, Michael, can I really launch my book, Christmas 2024? And you really can. And I'm going to help you do it. And I'm going to show you how. Now, for some reason, my slides aren't working, but I'm going to talk through this, and the replay will have the slides, and the replay will be in the rebroadcast just within an hour after we're done here, okay? So this is such good information, and a lot of people don't talk about it because a lot of people get stuck. And just like running a marathon, finishing that marathon, you got to get public with it, and you've got to involve a team. You've got to have a team of mentors. I'll never forget when I was 11 years old, I had just finished giving a speech on stage at Ewing Hossel Middle School to applause of 300 students. Now, the amazing thing about this speech that I gave was for 5 years prior, I stuttered. I stuttered as a kid when I spoke, but when I got on the stage, I spoke perfectly. I'll turn this around so you can see. That's me on the stage. And I talk about this kid here. I don't know who snapped the picture. Somebody snapped that picture of this 11-year-old boy on stage. And you know what? That's me right there. And I talk about this in my book, Book Ideal to Bestseller, and Finding the Speaker's Edge, becoming a full-time professional speaker, speaking on stage and speaking online, turning your passion into your full-time career. But, you know, I've been able to work with some amazing people over the years: Brian Tracy, Forbes Riley, John Maxwell, Chubby Checker, Tony Robbins, and Dr. Roz. But, you know, the fun thing about being in my industry and helping people get their stories to the world is to see that change and to see that box of books show up at somebody's house when they've worked for months to get their story out to the world, and finally they hold that book in their hands and literally dump the books on their bed and just dive onto that bed with those books and just savor the moment of, my baby has finally arrived. I'm finally bringing my story to the world. I'm sure you have a big why about what you want to do. Maybe you want to get on more media. Maybe you want to get on more stages. Maybe you want to deliver a TED Talk with your book. Maybe you're wanting to get a movie deal with your book. We've had authors get movie deals. For me, I'm passionate about a nonprofit we run in Pakistan that rescues girls from human trafficking. We've rescued 416 girls in the last 5 years, and our full-time staff of 27, we care for them on a daily basis. So whatever your reason is for writing a book, the Publishing Institute says that writing a book boosts revenue 380% for consultants, 219% for public speakers, and 194% for real estate agents. So that's pretty powerful numbers. In addition to that, meeting planners say publishing a book makes it 68% more likely you will get booked onto a stage over a speaker that does not have a book. So, but here's the thing: be able to grab people's attention quickly. The average 8-second attention span, and you know what? The average has a 7-second attention span. So we only have attention span 1 second longer than a goldfish. So we got to be able to grab people's attention quickly. Abe Lincoln said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I would spend the first 4 sharpening the axe. And so in this webinar today, over the next 25 minutes, I'm going to help you sharpen the axe and figure out how to make this book a success, because a lot of people end up finishing their book, but few people really impact with their book or create a movement with their book. The truth is, most readers never read past page 9. But if somebody will read your book to the very end, they're ready to scan your QR code and they're ready to spend $20,000 with you. And I'm going to tell you how it's done. Because writing a book is like shoveling horse manure. Now, what do I mean by that? Shoveling horse manure. Well, I was living on the farm in Oklahoma with my parents and my brother and my dog Joe, and I'm 7 years old, and it's Friday evening. And Dad tells us Friday evening, don't make any plans, boys, with your friends. Tomorrow we're going to do something special. And then we go to bed. And I'm thinking, oh, what are we going to do? Are we going to the lake? Are we going to an amusement park? Are we going on a trip to do something fun? And the next morning we get up after breakfast, and he loads us to his 1963 turquoise Chevy 3-speed pickup truck, and we head to a farmer's house. What are we going to do? Well, we end up shoveling manure all day. And we fill that back of that pickup truck with manure, and it's hot outside, and I'm sweating, and I'm 7, and I'm complaining because my brother Kenny and I are shoveling manure on Saturday, and we want to be swimming, and we want to be with our friends. And writing a book is a lot like shoveling that horse manure, because you've got to move a lot of manure to get to the real story that's going to bless and benefit and impact the world in a positive, transformational way. Everybody likes going to the farmer's market. Everybody likes going to have fresh, organic, delicious fruits and vegetables, but few people want to shovel the manure. But it's the manure and the minutia and getting through and processing that manure and that minutia that's going to give the world the transformational book. The diamond miners in South Africa, we did a book launch there with 2,000 women before the pandemic. It was amazing. They came out on a Saturday morning, and for 5.5 hours, amazing. They took over this place, and there were only 5 men in the crowd. So it got to be an issue with the bathrooms and these 5 men. That's another story for another day. But the point is, these women were hungry. These women wanted something. These women wanted to make an impact, and they had been through the horse manure of life, and they had gotten to the transformational message. So listen, you might be going through some horse manure right now, but there's a transformational message on the other side. You want to ask, who is the audience? And as you ask, who is the audience, you want to realize that the book industry is bigger than the movie industry. Your book has the potential to really transform the world. So you're going to get public with it today. You're going to make a decision today that's going to change your life, because everything else has gotten in the way. And the reason you've allowed it to get in the way, you didn't do it intentionally, but subconsciously you self-sabotage because you believed the lie that your story wasn't good enough and that nobody wanted to hear your story. But I'm here to tell you, the world needs to hear your story. People say, I'm not gonna write my book because I'm not Ralph Waldo Emerson. And Ralph Waldo Emerson wasn't Ralph Waldo Emerson until he published his first book. And so the first book is the hardest. It takes 80% of the space shuttle's fuel to get it into orbit. But with the remaining 22%, it can circle the Earth 22 times. And so we've got to ask, what is your core life message? What is your core life message that you're called to bring to the world? Now, during the pandemic, the world changed, right? We all know the world shut down, and that was actually a time when a lot of people wrote their books. I had been very successful helping people with my course, Write Your Book in 60 Days, before the pandemic. But during the pandemic, I said, we've been blessed as a publishing company, as a pay it forward, and provides hundreds of people here that are dozens of people on this slide representing people that took my course for free during the pandemic, as I taught every week on how to write your book in 60. And writing your book in 60 days is really shaving off everything that is not transformational, everything that you processed cathartically and therapeutically through your counseling, your coaching, and your process of life that happened in the garden below the minutia. That's not what we're going to bring to the world. What we're going to bring to the world is that seed that breaks open and that fruit that is produced as a result, and realizing that 90% of global readers are women. 90% of global readers are women. Doesn't mean you can't write a book for a man, but you might want to do what I did with my first book, The Single Dad Survival Guide, is I packaged it as a gift product that a woman could buy for a man going through a divorce life to raise his kids. And so I went in writing a book. You've got to know who your reader is, and you've got to know what you want them to take, and you've got to know what is that call to action before you finish the book. Types of publishing. This is very important as we talk about what do you do if you get stuck? How do you organize the table of contents? How do you come up with the title and a subtitle? realize that there's 3 types of publishing. Now, once you realize you can self-publish, you can go with traditional publishing, or you can do hybrid publishing. Self-publishing is where you do everything yourself. You look online and you hire an editor online. You find somebody to help you edit the book, where you get an idea of your head of what you want for the book cover and the book title, and you hire a cover designer to design a cover for you and to come up with a title and a subtitle. It's you look online and you find somebody with the interior design and do everything from EPUB, loading your book up to hundreds or dozens or hundreds of sites like Walmart.com, Target.com, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, books sites around the world where everybody comes books. Now, you can do all this yourself. There's some upside and there's downside. There's no right answer for everybody because it's different. It depends on what your goals are. Now, with self-publishing, you own the rights. You make all the royalties. You get limited distribution. So if you want distribution beyond Amazon and you want global distribution into bookstores and libraries, self-publish route for you. And then most people will spend about as money and as much time with self-publishing by the time they hire the editors, the cover designers, and everybody, and get the ISBN and figure out how to do all that and submit a Library of Congress and copyright registration. They're pulling their hair out. They want to make sure they did it. Error message comes back that they all wrong, that the file's not created correctly. That's called self-publishing. And you'll never be able to get your book into bookstores and libraries. Very, very seldom does a self-published author book into bookstores and libraries. It's the way it is. So the publishing is called traditional publishing. And traditional was popular in the 70s and 80s because in the 70s and 80s, book idea, Oprah Winfrey or Joel Osteen, or your name was Chuck Norris. You had traditional publishers that were knocking on your door and saying, hey, look, we're going to publish your book. We're going to give you global distribution. We're going to pay you 5 to 7%. We're going to make 95%. We're going to own the rights. You're not going to own the rights, and you're not allowed to repurpose any of your content because we're going to own your content. So needless to say, that wasn't a good option for most new authors. And so enter hybrid publishing that's gotten really popular in the 90s and into the 2000s. Hybrid publishing takes the best of self-publishing and traditional publishing, where you own the rights, you make the lion's share of the royalties, you get global distribution, your book is brought to market quickly, and unlike traditional publishing, you actually can repurpose content because you wrote it, you should own it, but also your book is brought to market quickly and you get the creative control and final say on the editing of the interior and the cover design and what the book looks like. And so every time you speak, every time you do a podcast, every time you do an event where you show up to sell your books, you're making 100% of your book sales because it's your book, but you're represented by a name brand publisher like Beyond Publishing, which can get you into bookstores and libraries. So simply ask yourself the question, what is best for me at this time? So the average publishing investment on hybrid book publishing is about $9,000. And you can shop around and check this out, but you will also find that as you look into self-publishing, this is about how much you're going to spend by the time you do the editing, the cover design, the copyright registration, the ISBN assignment, the Library of Congress, the look inside feature for Barnes & Noble and Amazon, the EPUB conversion, submitting your print files, your paperback, your hardcover, your ebook to dozens of sites, putting your audio book up on iTunes, ACX, and Audible, getting an Amazon bestseller, editing your book, all these things going to come out to about $9,000 if you do it yourself or if you hire a hybrid publisher. Now, one thing I'm offering between now and Halloween, October 31st, is a bonus Because with us, we give you a bonus. We give you your first media interview. We introduce you to our podcast network, because if you're not talking on podcasts, nobody knows your book is launched. We invite you to join our private Facebook group with 2,000 plus authors. We give you access to our annual events in the US and beyond. I give you full access to my book writing course, this course that is 8 weeks worth of content called Write Your Book in 60 Days, and 30-minute free coaching call with me. That's a total value of $15,000. And so what I'm going to do between now and Halloween is for a one-time payment of $4,997. We give you everything. That's more than 15%. That's more than $10,000 off the retail price. It's $4,997 to do everything, or 2 payments of $2,750. Now, I'm going to upload the replay with the slides underneath this presentation so you have the benefit of the slides, but I'm only taking the first 3 people. So you want to get on my calendar now. I'm going to give you my calendar link and my text, getpublished.beyondpublishing.net, or you can text me 918-955-3227. That's a US number. Text the word book to 1-918-955-3227, or jump on my calendar directly at getpublished.beyondpublishing.net. And this offer ends October 31st, but I want to ask you the question, if not you, who? If not now, when? How long have you been wanting to write your book? And so why not do it now? The future belongs to those who get there first. I believe in you or of your dreams. And this is only good for the first 3 people. And so jump on my calendar, text me, and let's get rocking and rolling. You want to have your book out by Christmas, right? To benefit from the greatest spike in sales for your book, November is the hottest month to sell your book. So how long have friends and family been telling you to write a book? How long have you been working on that book? That fiction book, that nonfiction book that's going to get you on more stages, that's going to get you more media interviews. You know, our clients have been on CNN, Fox News, Dr. Phil, San Francisco Chronicle, the Houston Chronicle, Good Morning America, the Today Show, on and on and on as a result of their book. And so don't wait till it's perfect. Don't wait till the manuscript is perfect. Give it to us. We have editors. We have editorial team. We do everything for you. It's turnkey. But the first thing we do for you is we start pre-selling and pre-marketing the book cover, and we get you speaking. We get your first media interview booked and your talking points down so you can start speaking right away, right now, right today. Let's get you speaking. Let's get you talking. I had an author recently in North Carolina. He calls me. He's freaking out. His name's Dave. His book, Boss or Leader. I said, Dave, why are you freaking out? He says, well, I've got the media interview tomorrow and I don't have my books yet. I said, no problem. Go to Kinko's. I emailed him the high resolution cover of his book. I said, print it out, scotch tape it to another book, hold that book up. So when you're in the media interview, they think it's your actual book, but it's blank on the inside. He sold 9 books and he got 3 coaching clients that day just from a 4-minute interview in his local Charlotte, North Carolina studio with the local television. So don't wait, make things happen. All you need is the book cover, and we're going to help you get it done. We're going to help you finish the story, write it, everything. Reach out to me. There's my number. It's on the screen, 918-955-3227. I'm only taking the first 3 people. So I am Michael D. Butler, America's book publisher, coming at you from Bangkok, Thailand, where we're opening another office. And I told you I would tell you the top 4 countries that are the top 4 countries for book sales in English, because 76% of books in English are bought and read outside the U.S. The top 4 countries are India, Thailand, China, and the Philippines. So if you're looking to sell books, you want to talk to me, you want to talk to us, because that's where books are sold. Americans aren't buying books. So if you're writing a book for your next door neighbor, that's probably the wrong market. Expand your mind, have the awareness of a global audience and what action you can have them take as a coach, as a consultant, as a business owner, as a pastor, as a speaker, as a financial advisor, or mortgage consultant. Where is your audience? Where can you do business? If you can do business globally, we need to talk. Michael D. Butler here. The book opens the door. The book gets you on stage. The book gives you the credibility. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in, and be watching for the replay. And I'm only taking the first 3, and it looks like I've got 2 inquiries, and I've got 1 person signed up. So this is going to go quick. Thanks for watching and sharing.